Today's video is about one of the most powerful vocal groups of the 60s and 70s. This group embraced an impressive stylistic diversity while always staying true to their roots and gospel harmonies. The centerpiece of today's video is all about the staple singers. Now before we start, let's be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and push that notification bell to be sure you won't miss out on any more uploads. Now without further ado, let's cue that intro. This story begins on December 28th, 1914 in Winona, Mississippi, when the birth of the patriarch robot Pop Staples was born. Pops was a contemporary and friend of Charlie Patton, whom he played with. Pops immediately gained experience as a solo blues musician at neighborhood dances and picnics. During these early years, Pops was pulled into the church. Pops married Osceola in 1933. The couple went on to have 4 children with Cleotha, who was born in 1934, Purvis, who was born in 1935, Yvonne, who was born in 1936, and Mavis, who was born in 1939. Pops was 21 years old when he moved to Chicago with his family from Mississippi. When he initially arrived to Chicago in 1935, he worked in the stockyards for 4 cents a day, which is about $1 a day in today's money. Pops joined the Golden Trumpets, where he started singing and playing guitar in 1937. Pops worked in the stockyards while playing and singing with the group while his family of 4 grew. In 1948, Pops presented his 3 kids, Cleotha, Mavis, and Purvis, in front of a church audience, and from that moment, the Staple Singers was born. Pops taught his children how to sing and harmonize. The family's first performance was at Mount Calvary Baptist Church, where they sang the song, "If I Could Hear My Mother Pray Again," 3 times, since that was the only song that they knew. But the audience kept inviting them back for additional encores. Throughout their 40s and the early 50s, the family began performing in churches around Chicago. Pops and Mavis shared lead vocals, with Pops also penning their early songs. After seeing enormous success in churches surrounding Chicago and learning new songs to sing, the family got their first professional deal with Chicago's own VJ Records. The family recorded in an acoustic gospel folk style for different labels including United, VJ, and Savoy Records, to mention a few. In 1958, they issued a debut album titled A Gospel Program. Now this album was recorded with the Caravans. The next year, they released a second album titled On Cloudy Day. Between the years of 1960 and 1961, the group issued 2 albums with Will the Circle Be Unbroken and Swing Low. When the family recorded for United and VJ Records, they used an older, slightly outdated, thoroughly southern spiritual approach. By the end of 1961, the group had signed with Riverside Records, which at the time the label specialized in genres like jazz and folk music. With Riverside and then Epic Records, the group hoped to capitalize on the then burgeoning white folk boom. The group released the albums Hammer and Nails, the 25th day of December in 1962, along with This Land and Swing Low, Sweet Chariot in 1963. In 1965, the group signed a deal with Epic Records where they released the album Amen. That same year, they released another album titled Freedom Highway. Now this album reflects not only the actions of the activists, but the suffering that they had endured. As the civil rights movement gained traction in the early 60s, the family got acquainted with and befriended Martin Luther King Jr. Pops always fought against segregation, refusing to eat in the back of restaurants in the South. So instead, they opted to make sandwiches in a car while touring the South. Now with Epic, the family adopted a more mainstream friendly approach to music. Between the years of 1965 and 1968, the group issued 5 albums with This Little Light in 1965, Why in 1966, Pray On and For What It's Worth in 1967, and What the World Needs Now Is Love in 1968. In 1967, the group had 2 charted singles with Why and For What It's Worth. In 1968, the family signed a new deal with Stax Records and issued 2 albums, Soul Folk and Action and To Get Over. On these albums, they collaborated with guitarist Steve Cropper, aka The Colonel. Following the release of the Soul Folk and Action album, Purvis left the group to manage Hutchinson Sunbeams, who later became The Emotions. Purvis also launched his own nightclub in Chicago called Purvis. He was soon replaced by his younger sister, Yvonne. Soon after Steve Cropper left Stax Records, Al Bell was set to produce the group's records, shifting the family sound towards funk and soul. The group's first recording with Stax was Love Is Plentiful, Heavy Makes You Happy, You Got to Earn It, and Respect Yourself. In 1971, the group released its first charted album with the Staple Swingers, which peaked at 117 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 9 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. Next year, they released another album titled Respect Yourself, that peaked at number 19 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 3 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. That same year, they had 2 charts world. In 1973, the group released another album titled Be What You Are, which peaked at 102 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 13 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts, followed by the album City in the Sky, which was released in 1974 and peaked at 125 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 13 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. Between these 2 years, the family had 6 charted singles with Oh La Dee Da, Everybody Sing Along, Sing It Now, Be What You Are, If You're Ready, We'll Be Tolerated, Touch a Hand, Make a Friend, in your heart tonight. A new thing is taking shape. City in the Sky, a city in the sky where I can fly, and My Main Man. Round the corner now, I found love. Me and my main man. In 1975, Stax Records went bankrupt, and the family signed with Curtis Mayfield's label, Curtain Records. The family then released another album titled Let's Do It Again, which peaked at number 20 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 1 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. This album was also the soundtrack for the 1975 film Let's Do It Again that featured Jimmy Walker, Bill Cosby, and Sidney Poitier. This album was followed by the self-titled song. Do it again, do it. Let's do it in the morning. That next year, the family collaborated with the band for their feature film, The Last Waltz, performing the song The Wait. In 1976, the family they signed a new deal with Warner Brothers Records and released albums such as Pass It On, that peaked at 155 on the Billboard 200 charts and number 20 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. Family Tree, that peaked at number 58 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. And Unlock Your Mind, that peaked at number 34 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. The remainder of the 70s, the family released hits such as New Orleans,
Hard for me to say, I got my mind blown in Louisiana.
Love Me, Love Me, Love Me,
Love me, love me, love me, love me, love me.
Sweeter Than Sweet, See a Little Further,
All of my loving, I gotta know what's happening in your head.
I Honestly Love You,
Love,
Unlock Your Mind,
love is waving at you, but it's too hard to see. Unlock your
and Chicka Boom.
and set our destination.
Despite having so many hits on the R&B charts, the family was not able to regain their momentum and failed to reach the pop charts again until the mid-80s. From 1979 to 1984, the group took a break before signing a new contract with Private Eye Records. In 1984, the group released the album Turning Point that peaked at number 43 on the Billboard Top R&B Albums charts. This was followed by 3 charted singles from the album with Hate,
Just a time for the night. Didn't wanna go through the door.
Slippery People,
Put away that gun. This part is simple. Try to
and This Is Our Night.
There's no use denying the feeling, baby. What took you so?
In 1985, the group had 2 more charted singles with Are You Ready?
But wait, don't you worry.
And Nobody Can Make It on Their Own.
And up ahead, pull some folk together.
The group was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1999 and in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame in 2018. They was also honored with a marker on the Mississippi Blues Trail. In 2005, the family was honored with the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Osceola passed away in 1987. Pops passed away on December 19, 2000 at the age of 85 from complications from a concussion that he had suffered earlier in that month. Cleotha passed away on February 21st, 2013 at the age of 78 after suffering from Alzheimer's for more than a decade. Yvonne passed away on April 10th, 2018 at the age of 80, and Purvis passed away on May 6, 2021 at the age of 85, leaving Mavericks as the last surviving member of the family. The Staple Singers was pioneers in blending gospel, soul, and R&B in the 20th century music history, becoming one of the most significant family vocal groups of the 60s and 70s. Now, before we go, I have a question for you all. What is your favorite song from the Staple Singers?